down in the green room right now. Let's go ahead and welcome Jack Korpela from CycleDrag.com. What's going on, buddy? Thank you for being here. Man,
what up, guys? First off, you guys are bringing a tear to my eye. We got so much to talk about. I'm so excited. Just the fact that this is happening. Love being on with the original Ayatollah of rock and roll at West Buck. So thank you guys so much for everything you do. I appreciate it. One thing I got to jump in and talk about, though, right away, because I heard you guys, you're saying, why don't more people want to do this? Well, this is a new beginning for Top Fuel. These bikes have been kind of put out to pasture in very small organizations. So for the last 5 years, I have been beating the drum so hard to get Larry McBride in front of that big crowd. It started last year with the Norwalk Night Under Fire, where we got Top Fuel Motorcycles there. Bill Bader, the master promoter, he recognized it. And then finally this year, to see him get this type of media attention, this could be a new beginning for Top Fuel Motorcycle, because it's not so much guys don't want to do it. There's guys out there running 620s on turbo bikes with no wheelie bars that are absolutely out of their mind. It's more so they don't get the exposure. People want to get into a category where they know they can market it, especially with these bikes in excess of $250,000, $300,000. If NHRA stays committed to this, if great people like Bill Bader stay committed to this, if Drag Illustrated keeps talking about Top Fuel Motorcycle on the West Buck Show, the future could be bright.
That's a really interesting point, man, because we've heard that before. I mean, a few weeks ago, well, it's been probably months ago now. I'm really bad about that yesterday thing 5 minutes ago. It turns out to be 4 years. But we had a gentleman on here. Who was it? Justin Ashley. What's the guy that with Phillips Connect? Jim Epler. Yep. He was a guy, to your point, Jack. He actually moved from the Top Alcohol funny car rinks into nitro rinks strictly because he knew that's what he was going to need to do to get the visibility required to get big sponsors. So to your point, maybe this is a new beginning. How many bikes like that? Well, there's two quick questions that would really be helpful to us. First and foremost, would you be willing to kind of lay out the differences or the nuances between the NHRA Top Fuel Harleys that we've kind of gotten used to seeing and what we saw Larry McBride on, which I believe is dubbed a Top Fuel motorcycle?
Yeah, the most obvious difference would be 2 cylinders versus 4. There are some similarities when you get down to it. Most of the Harley bikes are injected. Larry's supercharged. There are some supercharged nitro Harleys out there. They're still in the R&D stage. They've had some great runs. Takeshi Shigematsu went 602 on a supercharged nitro Harley, but it was either a go or blow situation. So a lot of guys have given up. Jay Turner had his supercharged Harley out in Richmond this past weekend, so I commend him for staying with it. Now, guys, to our point, a lot of these guys, including Larry, will tell you those Top Fuel Harleys are harder to ride. They hit so hard with 2 cylinders. So, again, I think you got a crop of individuals that are fearless and talented enough to cross over and do both. I think Ty Tharp, Bobby Malloy, Jay Turner, Rich Brilliant, these guys could also ride 4-cylinder bikes if the opportunity is there. And I think you asked me, how many motorcycles in the United States right now? We've got 5 active competitors: Larry McBride, Dave Vantine, Chris Hand, Mitch Brown, Sam Wills. We've also got a few bikes lying dormant that we hope to bring back out. Got a couple of fast guys over in Australia, Chris Matheson, Jay Upton, a couple of fast guys over in England. The dream someday would be to bring everybody together under one roof and have an amazing shootout.
Speaking of bringing everybody together under one roof, Jack, is there any chance to see those bikes? And we've seen the disparity, and we know this song and dance all too well with Pro Mod and Radial versus the World and trying to balance the power, I guess, so to speak, and make it a level playing field for all these different combinations. Is there a world where those bikes could race one another?
Absolutely. Oh, you mean the Harleys and the... Well, it's funny you say that because I had the opportunity to wear a promoter hat for about 3 years with the IDBL at Maryland International Raceway. And my goal was, okay, the Harleys are waning in competitors. They need more entries. Top Fuel Motorcycle needs more entries. What can we do to get these bikes together? Well, I tried everything. Maybe if somebody's smart enough to solve this conundrum, I went back to remember the Bud Shootout?
Absolutely.
So I thought,
staggered tree.
Yep. You know what I get then from the Top Fuel guys? I didn't build no bracket bike. Yeah. We're not doing that.
It's got to be heads up.
You talk about running off for records. You talk about staggering the starts. Maybe there's a way to do it. Maybe CompuLink could find out a way to make it fair. If they could, that could really save the sport. I tried so hard, and God bless Bobby Malloy. He said it best. He's a good friend of Larry McBride's, and he's the fastest injected nitro Harley out there at 609. I was trying to get him to come to Maryland for a match race. He said, "Why don't I just write Larry a check right now?" So that's the way the Harley guys feel. In fact, he said he'd rather burn his bike than run Larry.
Wow.
And
my man.
I get it. Two distinct
Yeah, I get it.
animals. We do have a guy over in Europe, Jaska Salakari, who has really found a combination with it's more like a KTM. He's been in the fives, and I take a lot of flack because we're still counting down the days till the first Top Fuel Harley 5, and he'll take big offense. And I'll say, no, Jaska, what you did is amazing, but he's not doing it with traditional Harley architecture, push rods, 45 degrees. So there's just so many combinations right now, but I try to play middleman between racer and promoter. That's not always the easiest thing, as you know, Wes, that I try telling these guys at the end of the day, it's about putting on a show. Most of them get it. Sometimes, though, I understand these egos and the expense that the racers have on that side as well. So it's just tough.
Jack, earlier you mentioned getting Larry in front of a big crowd, and you said that you had worked or put that bug in the year. What was the process of getting Larry to the national event and getting him in front of NHRA? Who was involved in that, and how can we replicate that to see that at more tracks across the country?
Well, here's the good news. I think that anybody who wasn't paying attention is now paying attention now. I can tell you one reason why I'm so excited and just went on my Facebook page beating the drum to try to get more entries. Ned Walliser of NHRA comes up to Larry after the 268. He says, what do we got to do to get more? What do we got to do to have a race? And I said, wow, this could be an amazing opportunity. To give you guys a little bit of the history, Top Fuel Motorcycle 4-cylinder would regularly run in the NHRA back in the 90s, especially at the U.S. Nationals. It was very, very unfortunate that our Dale Earnhardt, the greatest of all time, Elmer Trett, did lose his life at the 1996 U.S. Nationals, the same event where Blaine Johnson, unfortunately, lost his life. But Top Fuel Motorcycle continued on. Now, we don't know the real reason, and I can't confirm anything. I'm just going to tell you that Top Fuel Motorcycle 4-cylinder disappearing from NHRA just so happened to coincide with a Harley-Davidson sponsorship. I have no proof. They've been gone since '02, right? So now all of a sudden doors are opening again. So I started about 6 years ago. As you see right there we are at South Georgia Motorsports Park. Awesome event, but look at the stands. And I always thought, these guys deserve more than this. These events are great, but they need to be on the big stage. So many people told me, give up, kid. You'll never get them in the NHRA. Well, 5 years ago, I got to Anaheim for Supercross, and I'm sitting at the old St. Archer Club, and just so happened to be lucky enough to sit next to newly appointed NHRA president Glenn Cromwell, Evan Jonat, and a couple other people. So I'm like, man, get these people whatever they want on me. I need to talk to them. I didn't want to bother him. I didn't want to be that guy. He's trying to enjoy Supercross. But I handed him a picture of Larry, and he said, I know that guy. I used to work with him way back when. And that really got the ball rolling. Larry and I visited Glendora in January 2020. We were set to run. This was the former speed record, by the way. This was 265 against Mitch Brown. And we were set to go. Then the pandemic hits. Then Larry has mysterious health problems. So we really didn't know what the future was going to be. Ned started calling again about 2 months ago, and I'm so glad we put this deal together because he did more for his career and the career of all motorcycle drag racers in one day than we've done in the last 10 years.
I completely agree with you, Jack, because it's like, I don't know that we've ever talked this much. I mean, because we're about to parlay this into some pro stock motorcycle conversation, because I think that class is as hot and as talked about as I've seen it in recent years. I mean, there's all controversy and some storylines and whatnot. So it's a cool thing. And I think a guy like Larry McBride, he deserves this fanfare. I do not know Larry personally. I would like to. Man, you just don't hear anything negative about this guy. It's very interesting. I mean, I have had, in the last 72 hours, it's been one conversation after another about how incredible of a human being is, his contribution to the sport. And I want to play this clip real quick because it really, if I'm going to get this one right, I hope I play the right one. He mentioned in his media scrum in the NHRA Media Center out there at Virginia Motorsports Park, just how much of a fan of drag racing he is. And it always resonates with me when I hear it.
What's that mean to you here late in your career?
I'm going to tell you, it's really hard to put into words. Coming back from Top End, you had Ned Wallace was down there. He pulled us over. I mean, the guy was almost in tears, and he said, I wanted an exciting run. He said, I didn't really want goosebumps. He said, but I wanted an exciting run, and it was just awesome because Ned happened to be. When I run the 599 in Houston, Ned's the one that told me that I went 599. So to be able to do it again, I don't even know what to say to that question, Jack. It's just an honor to be here at the NHRA. I see all these guys that work so hard, and Joe Costello, look at what he does for it, and all these media people that stand out here in the the 100-degree days when we're out here hot that do that to publicize us, and they get actually nothing. We're getting everything. So I just want everybody here to know that I appreciate what they do, and that we do know how hard you guys work.
And there was
We were right there on the 60-foot, right where we wanted to be. It wasn't, quite as stellar as we'd like it to be. The tracks that we generally run on are just a touch tighter than that we hadn't run with NHRA in 20 years. So their track prep's a little different than what we've been used to. So trying to get used to it that was only our second pass. So it was a little different, but we had a lot of help, from people like Bobby Logano, Bill Miller Engineering, and Grubby. I mean, we had a lot of people that's pitched in to help us a little bit. So to get the thing calmed down enough so we wouldn't blow the tire off, and we could do the show that we were brought here to do. And the 330 was really good. It was a 258, which is extremely good. The thing run 212 to the eighth of a mile, so it was great.
212 to the eighth of a mile. That is
Wow.
absolutely bananas. The reason I was trying to scramble around and find that clip was because of all the name dropping that happened in there, Jack. Because I thought that was very interesting, and it speaks to that big crowd that had gathered around the starting line. Reigning champions, former champions from the Nitro ranks. But he mentioned Bobby Lagana. He mentioned Bill Miller, a dear friend of ours here at Drag Illustrated. Bobby and company were on the cover of the magazine here a few months ago. Excuse me, there I did it again. But what do you make of that, right? Wasn't that cool to hear? And I mean, for me as an outsider looking at it going, how crazy is it that David Grubnick was involved in this? There's conversations happening between Larry McBride and these world-beating NHRA top fuel tuners. That's pretty cool.
Larry McBride was very close with Keith Kibo Adams, who worked closely with the Winston team. God rest his soul. Was a great friend of his. They used to actually keep the Winston dragster and the Travelers dragster in Larry's shop. So Larry's always been about the Nitro. He's always been in the fraternity. He's just stayed loyal to two wheels.
Wow.
And I kind of got the big picture when I first went to PRI with him 6 years ago. And we try walking down one hallway, and it's an hour conversation. Next hallway, hour conversation. And it's guys like Alan Reinhardt. It's guys like Alan Johnson. I mean, it's incredible. So I was taken aback and humbled Friday when I saw Grubby coming over, sitting down with Steve McBride, going over stuff. You want to talk about me just sitting there taking notes, and I actually posted up on my Instagram today, what a lesson that Steve McBride's been doing this for 45 years, probably knows more than anybody at Top Fuel Motorcycle. He was taking notes because you never can learn too much. And when a guy like David Grubnick comes over to share some knowledge, you listen. And
I got goosebumps. I mean, I literally hearing that. And as someone who's been around this my whole life, I know what those moments are like. I remember the first time I was in the presence of an accomplished guy. I remember being around Mike Bell. He drove Roy Hill's pro stock car, and this guy's a notorious chassis car setup, driving son of a gun. And I remember being around him and just, you knew immediately, all right, I better become a sponge. I'm SpongeBob now because I need to listen to everything this guy says. I remember the first time I was around Joel Bayless, an IHRA mountain motor pro stock racer. He went racing with my family for a while, and everything he said, I felt like I needed to write down. A little later in life, I had that experience around Shannon Jenkins, right? And you're like, okay, I need to be paying attention to this guy. So I totally appreciate what you're saying about that. And I think it speaks to a couple of things. One, obviously, people appreciate what Larry's doing. They appreciate the challenge. They appreciate the courage, the commitment, the dedication. And sometimes I wish we saw more of that. People really committed to what they're doing, staying in their lane, even when there's probably opportunities to veer off or maybe greener pastures, staying committed to what they're doing. And I'm here to say, man, I hope that this is a turning point. As a kind of, it's a segue. How much more Larry Bride do we have, right? I mean, because I'm sure is that something that's kind of weighing on your mind, wow, we had this big moment and this could be huge for motorcycle drag racing, but we have to admit that I believe Larry's kind of in the what do they call it, the wonder years of his
Twilight.
career. Twilight years, thank you.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely in the back nine, and I always thought he was going to be like the Greek. I joke with him, you're going to be out here until you're 80, and maybe he will. Maybe he will be Don Garlits. Last year was a real dose of reality when, for the first time ever, he had serious health issues that they couldn't figure out, stomach problems, kidney infection. Thank God he's on the up and up. But that was a dose of reality that this guy who's become like a father to me that I've been covering my whole life, we really could have just a couple years left. So we better enjoy it now. We always talk shop about how to promote the class, Mitch Brown and I, Larry, and we've kind of accepted that the good old days could be now. Enjoy every moment because Chris Hand's getting older, Sam Wilson's getting older, Larry's getting older. But I'll tell you this, I'm totally revised after this NHRA experience because you guys ask, why aren't there more of these bikes? Well, they're so expensive. But guess what? Mike Salinas says, I'd like to have a Scrapper's bike. The Capco boys say we'd like to have a Capco bike. I believe John Force Racing told him something of the same situation. So getting him out in front of this spotlight, we certainly have the opportunity to get the backing, get the right guys, and elevate this thing. And maybe the good old days aren't over. I think Larry has scared away some people because he's so successful. But my point to them is Larry can't do it forever. And if Larry does indeed bow out, we need some heir apparents. And, hey, I don't care if you're out there running 330s, 8th mile. Nitro bikes are cool. I used to tell guys when I was running IDBL, I said, man, if you can just show up and do a burnout, you'll add to this show. We need more bodies. We need more participation to keep it going. And I think this is a big step in continuing that.
Well, hey, man, I tell you, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. It's your passion and enthusiasm is infectious, man. I mean, you've made a fan out of me, truly. I hope you know that I appreciate the sport, appreciates what you're doing, man, because it's I've said this a lot over the years, but I stand by it. There has to be someone out front. There has to be someone waving the flag, screaming and yelling, spinning the sign, whatever you want to call it. There has to be a tip of the spear, and you are that for motorcycle drag racing on a lot of levels. I honestly think you're that. I look at Donald Long being that for drag radial racing, right? I look at guys like Tommy Franklin and Tyler Crossno being that for outlaw pro mod racing, and Keith Haney, they're driving the bus on their respective series. Look at Chris Graves and the Funny Car Chaos series. He's the one driving the bus on that, and you're certainly driving the bus on Top Fuel Motorcycle. Tell us real quick where everybody can follow along. I know you're the founder of CycleDrag.com. Tell us about that briefly, where everybody can kind of keep up with this stuff as we move forward.
Thanks a lot, man. As you hitting all those socials on TikTok, CycleDrag TikTok, thought I was too old, but look out, here it comes. CycleDrag YouTube for the longer videos, CycleDrag.com Facebook for some videos, got a little bit of stuff on Instagram. And before I go to, I want to thank you. The feeling is totally mutual. I first discovered you, PRI 30 Under 30. I think it's so wonderful what you do. And I remember you said something to all these racers out there. You said, hey, if you're not getting money, okay, that's hard, but every single one of you should be getting product. And I agree. You could teach a class on that. These guys, it's all about representation. Guys come to me and they say, hey, I won this championship. Let me send this into the sponsor. Remember, guys, in this era, it's about what product you can sell for them, how you can represent them. And as you said, keeping the F word off your social media sometimes, that's a good thing as well. But really appreciate what you guys do for the sport. We know it's not getting any younger. We got to keep this thing alive.
I agree, man. Thank you so much for being a part of our show today, and I hope we got to do this again soon, dude. We'll talk more. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike, JT, Dion, let's give it up for Jack and CycleDrag.com.
Thank you, guys.
Woo! See you, boys.